Hi, friends. Welcome back. We skipped a week of the Diet Diaries, so today's episode's coming out Monday, April 13th. We just got back from Turks and Caicos on Saturday at the time that I'm recording this. By the time you're listening, it's over a week later. So today's like my first re-entry day, and I have so much work. I don't see clients on Mondays. I see clients Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I have a lot of stuff, some catch-up stuff, although I did do like a decent amount of work while I was gone. And I'm working on something new that I'm super, super excited about for you guys. A new DIY course, meaning do it yourself. So a way to kind of get the experience of being coached, but through a DIY course that comes at obviously a much lower price point and is on a very, very specific topic that I know 99% of you who are listening struggle with, and that is around food noise, trigger foods, and weight loss. So I'm doing a ton of work on that today, and that's going to be coming out early May, so pretty soon. Here's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about the fact that Duke lost in the Elite Eight to UConn in the last 2 seconds of the game. Now, you may have heard me say that and been like, oh, done, like stop listening. Well, hopefully not, because then you won't have heard this part. But here's the thing. This is not about Duke. This is about how the experience, and I'm going to talk through it a little bit, relates to so closely the stuff that we struggle with a lot around weight loss. Because weight loss for a lot of folks who are listening is kind of like the ultimate goal, is the outcome, is the end result that you are looking for. Much in the same way that a basketball team is looking for a national championship. And so I want to talk about a couple of things that I learned from watching this loss happen in the way that it happened, and the like some of the things that the players were saying, the media was saying, and the kind of cultural response to it. Because here's the thing. So Duke was up by 19 points against UConn. Duke was the number 1 ranked overall seed. I went to Duke. We're huge Duke basketball fans. You might hate Duke. You can still listen. It really has nothing to do with Duke. You can really insert any school into here. This is not about Duke. Duke was up by 19 points. And over the course of the second half, they lost that 19-point lead. And they had a 2-point lead left with 6 seconds to go. And a player made a mistake literally in the last 2 seconds. And UConn basically stole the ball and made an insane, basically half-court 3-point shot, and it went in, and they won basically at the buzzer. There were 0.7 seconds left on the clock. It was a soul-crushing, heartbreaking loss. And the player who made the mistake, whose name was Caden Boozer, the first thing that he said when he was interviewed right after the game, like he is raw from this emotion. I mean, you can imagine the despair and the frustration and the anguish over not just losing, but losing in this way. He said, I ruined the season for my team. And this is what I want to talk about, because I want to back up for a second here. And I want to let you know that Duke's record coming into this game was 35-2. They had only lost 2 games all season. Both of those games were lost within the last few seconds of the game, not unlike this UConn game. They were the number 1 ranked overall seed in the NCAA tournament. They had basically the top recruiting class in the country, of which that player who said that thing was one of those kids. It was a phenomenal team, and it was a phenomenal season. But in that moment, because of the loss and the way of the loss, and it's a loss, it's the end of the season, it's the knowing that winning a national championship now is no longer a possibility for you, right? There are so many losses happening at one time. It's the loss of the game, the domino effect of that, and all the losses it creates is so intense that the first reaction is, oh my God, I have destroyed this. I have taken away the one thing that we were working towards. And that was kind of like, that was not my gut reaction. My gut reaction was when I saw him make that mistake was, and some people might even argue that it wasn't a mistake, but here nor there, he was basically the last Duke player to touch the ball. He was the player the ball got stolen from. Was, oh my God, I feel so bad for him. He's going to blame himself, and the news media and everyone's going to blame him. But the reality is they had a 19-point lead. And when you lose a 19-point lead over the course of 20 minutes of basketball, that is not one player's fault. That is the fault of the entire team and many mistakes made over and over again. It has to do with the coach. The coach is everything, right? But here's what I want to talk about. We so often look at outcomes, the final result of something, as the only measure of success. And here's where I'm going to link this into weight loss, right? Did the scale go down this week? Yes, great, I have succeeded. No, great, I have failed. Oh shit, I have failed. And in that moment, we kind of lose sight of all of the actions we have taken up until that point, and they all kind of get discounted, right? So in that moment that they lost this game, the feeling was, I've ruined the season for my team. But when you look at the bigger picture and everything that the team had accomplished up until that point, it couldn't be further from the truth. They had arguably one of the most successful seasons in the NCAA this year and for Duke basketball on record. And that does not get erased. That does not go away because they lost that game. Not only do those wins and does the kind of the status of that season not go away, all of the experiences that were had, all of the learning, all of the progress, all of the development around, basketball, the sport itself, around team building, around sportsmanship, around, time management and executive functioning and traveling and dealing with the challenges of being a student athlete and the pressures of the media and learning how to deal with that. All of these experiences still happened. They are still inside of those players and those coaches. They do not get ripped away. They do not get negated. They do not get nullified, annulled because they lost that game. And the same thing is true if you are someone who wants to lose weight and you are making some changes around food that hopefully are first and foremost focused on changing the way that you behave around food, and then of which weight loss is very often a side effect of that. And the scale doesn't go down, or the scale goes up, which feels even worse. 99.9% of the time, our reaction is, shit, this isn't working. I fucked up. Why bother? I've ruined everything. And you feel disappointed and you feel disgusted and you feel discouraged. But when you pull back and you look at the course of the week or the 2 weeks or however much time, let's say in between when you had last weighed yourself, maybe it's even 24 hours, what were the actions that you took? What did you do that went well? What did you learn? What have you improved on? All of that happened. All of that matters. And I would guarantee you, 100% of the time, you have done at least one thing and more likely many things that helped you make progress, that helped you learn, that helped you move forward, that were successful, that worked really well, that helped you understand something better. If you are doing the work in the context of the stuff that I talk about, I'm not talking about if you're off counting your calories and that kind of stuff, which if you are, please come find me because you don't have to be doing that. And my heart still breaks when I know there's so many women out there who are trying to manage food through that mechanism. Anyway, I digress. So let's even give an example, right? Let's say you get on the scale and it's up 2 pounds. And over the past couple of weeks, you've been eating more protein, you've been adding in more vegetables, you've been having sweets, but you've been working on sitting down at a table and having them with fewer distractions. And yeah, a couple of times, maybe you had you took an extra cupcake at a friend's kid's birthday party, or you ate more pizza than you wanted to when you were really full, right? So definitely you did things that didn't necessarily feel great in the moment. And then you also did a lot of things that did feel really good in the moment. And the scale is up. And in that moment, it feels like you failed. It feels like nothing you did worked. It feels like, why am I doing this? And I get that because we are so ingrained to use the scale as the only measure of progress, as the only measure of success. Just like athletes have been taught to use, did you win the national championship or not? Did you win the game or not? As the only measure of success. And I'm not saying that winning doesn't matter. Of course, winning matters. Of course, everyone wants to win. But especially when you get into this point in the season where you have to win 6 games in a row and only one team is going to do it, right? You've got 68 teams that go into this tournament and only one basically goes home happy. There are so many other measures of success, and you've got an entire season that has built up to this, right? So you have got an entire weeks or months or who knows how long you've been working on this of actions that you've been taking, of skills you've been working on. And just because the scale didn't do what you wanted it to do, which maybe is not maybe is related, but also could be a separate episode, you actually can't control what happens on the scale. Really no more than when you shoot the basketball, you can't control if it goes in, right? You can work on like kind of your shot selection. You can work on your technique for shooting. You can work on evading a defender. You can work on your timing. But once that ball and you've done all that, once that ball is out of your hands, you've got no control about whether it goes in the basket. Just like you do all these actions around food, right? You're eating more protein, I'm eating more veggies, I'm putting my desserts on a plate, and I'm not eating in front of the TV and all these things. You can't control how that shows up on the scale. But all of those actions are having an impact on you, right? They're helping you feel more full between meals. They're decreasing your food noise. They're helping you feel more in control around food. They're helping you snack less, right? They're helping you be more thoughtful about when trigger foods are in front of you and what you're going to do and how you're going to respond. There are so many other positive changes happening and so much growth and so much development. And that all still happened regardless of whether the scale changes. And that's the crux of the whole thing. And that's what's honestly so fucking cool about it. Just like all those games were still won, all that player development still happened, all that team development, all that sportsmanship, all that collaboration, all of that stuff still happened, even though they lost that huge game. It doesn't take away any of that. And we lose sight of this so quickly and so easily. And a lot of times we don't ever come back to it. And that's the thing, right? It's not abnormal or necessarily even a problem for your brain to instantly react that way. For you to get on the scale, for the scale to be up, and for you to be discouraged and upset and pissed off and frustrated. All of the opportunity is in letting those feelings happen, letting those thoughts happen, and then how do you respond to it? What's your next action? Do you listen to it? Do you let those thoughts boss you around, right? Is Caden Boozer now 8 days later walking around still saying to himself, I ruined the season for my teammates? I would bet that he's not. I would bet that he has spoken at length with his teammates, with his coaches, with his parents, potentially even maybe with a sports psychologist, and has worked through that and has now had a time once the emotions have settled, right? And everything is kind of like the volume has gotten turned down on the intensity of that moment and he's able to think and see more clearly. Just like you get on the scale and it's up or it doesn't change and your emotions heighten and you get reactive and everything just feels like, you know, like fiery and you're pissed off and you're upset and you react and you say, fuck it, I'm not doing this, or I'm going to double down, or you're going to have some type of overreaction that's out of alignment with what's actually going to benefit you long term. And so letting that kind of reaction happening, let those emotions happen. And then again, how are you responding to it? Are you responding in alignment with what you've been doing and how you want to take care of yourself and what you know is good for you beyond just trying to fix what's happening on the scale? Or are you letting those thoughts boss you around? Are you continuing to let yourself fall into the spiral and kind of like succumb to the screaming noise in your head around, you have to lose weight, you have to lose weight, you have to lose weight. This isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. I'm so pissed off, I'm so discouraged, I'm trying so hard, nothing's working. Right? And remembering, what do I have control over? What do I not have control over? Right? Is one of those ways that you can respond to those kind of really loud thoughts. So much of this is about having other very clearly defined ways of measuring progress that are not just about the scale, clearly identifying what parts of this work you do have direct control over, which are your actions and your behaviors, and which parts you don't, which is when the scale goes down or when it goes up. The tendency to have all or nothing thinking, right? It's like we tend to react with very extreme, drastic responses. When the scale doesn't do what we want to do, usually the reactions are, I'm going to double down, I'm going to go even harder at this, or I'm going to go more extreme, or I'm going to say, fuck it. Because what I'm doing right now isn't working, so I need to do something else. I need to change up what I'm doing. And then we forget to look at, again, all the other measures of progress. What has worked well this week? What have I noticed? Have I been snacking less? Is my food noise decreased, right? All of these other, really the core of what you're working on. And then the weight loss, again, becomes a side effect or a byproduct of working on that. And I was talking to Danny. We talked about this game for like a week, still thinking about it. And not just the game itself, but what I'm sharing with you and what these players have been through and what that experience is like and what it's like to be, these are teenagers, they're kids. They're 18, 19 years old. They're children, right? Their prefrontal cortexes are not fully developed. And there's so much of that plays a role in this, but the human experience of watching this season and this loss was, I'm going to get emotional talking about it again. And it is, again, not unlike the human experience of existing in a world where, for better or worse, so many of us still want to be smaller. And sometimes losing weight is a huge benefit to our health and is something that that will positively impact us. And for some of us, it does the opposite, right? And that's on a very nuanced, personal case-by-case basis. But being able to look at and identify other measures of progress and success aside from what the scale says is a crucial, non-negotiable part of this work. And again, that could be around, did I snack less? Is my food noise down? Am I no longer obsessing over the open box of Girl Scout cookies in the pantry, right? Was I able to go out to Mexican food with my family and have a few chips instead of eating the entire basket or saying, no, I'm not having any? Right? Was I, did I get in a couple of extra walks this week to get some extra steps in? Did I, have a little bit of protein at breakfast? Did I think about protein this week, right? Did I think about what are my efficient sources of protein, right? That's a measure of progress. You get to decide what your measures of progress are, which is really fucking cool. But you also have to decide, you have to know. If you don't know, you're going to be like flailing around in space, right? Like Ryan Gosling in Project Hail Mary. Like you're going to be spinning around in space and you're not going to know what side is up. And the only thing you're going to have to cling to is a scale. So identifying your measures of progress is, again, non-negotiable. You get to decide what they are. That might feel really cool and exciting and freeing to you. It might also feel really scary because you're like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know, what is that? Well, that's what we do in coaching. That's a step-by-step process that I walk through with my clients pretty early on. Like we kind of know based on what their challenges are, what we're going to be working towards and what progress is going to look like. And I want to wrap this up, but at the same time as this has all been going on, I've been listening to a book by a guy named Brad Stulberg, who's a writer, and he wrote a book called The Way of Excellence. And I'm really enjoying it. I would definitely call it like a self-help book, but I think not in the traditional sense. It's a lot about kind of the neuroscience and the psychology behind human behavior and our pursuit of excellence and what excellence actually means. And what are the different tools and strategies we use to get there, how excellence is kind of wired into our DNA. And again, like what that means. That doesn't mean like winning a gold medal at the Olympics, right? Excellence shows up in so many things that we do and in all, in kind of like in varying degrees, right? And what's excellent for one person is not what excellence is for someone else. Anyway, all this to say that he said something in one of the chapters that I made a note about. And I wrote it down. I'm going to read it to you because it very much applies to this. If you don't define your own version of success, someone else will define it for you. And I think that this is so true both in sports, right? People define success as winning the NCAA national championship. That's not the only measure. Is it one measure of success? Sure. Is it the only? And is it even the most important? I would argue no. We have been conditioned from birth to believe that success in health looks like losing weight and being smaller, being within a certain weight range, fitting into a certain size clothes. And can losing weight be a measure of success? Again, depending on so many specific circumstances. Yes, it can. Is it the only measure of success? Is it the only marker of your health? Does it indicate how you feel in your own body? Does it indicate how healthy or unhealthy your relationship is with food? Does it indicate how much nutritious food you're eating or how many sweets you're eating or how often you're exercising? No, hard no. So again, we are again conditioned to think that weight is the only measure of success, both in terms of health and in terms of like self-worth and acceptance and attractiveness. And it is objectively, factually not. But if you don't define your own measures of success around these things, around health, around self-care, around well-being, around movement, around your appearance, then you will always default to that. Just like if as an athlete, you don't define your measures of success, if you don't define your measures of success, you will always default to how many games did I win and did we win the championship? When there's so much else that happened along the way that will actually stay with you. He actually in the book talked about something that Kevin Durant once said, and Kevin Durant is an NBA professional basketball player, but who's also played in the Olympics and has won several Olympic gold medals and I think numerous NBA championships. And he talks about like, I can't walk around like with medals hanging around my neck, right? I can't walk around like displaying those wins every day. But what I do walk around with is the skills and the kind of like the personal development, the progress I made as a human in the pursuit of those things, right? The work ethic and the practice and the commitment to myself and the disappointment and the keeping going when things got hard. All of these kind of behaviors and actions and skills, those show up every day in how I engage with the world and how I do my work and how I talk to people and how I talk to myself. And I love that because it's like, yeah, you're not going to walk around all day saying, oh, this is how much I weigh. This is what the tag on my pants says. And you're not wearing it on your shirt saying, today I weigh this amount. And today I'm wearing size, 12 pants and I weigh 170 pounds. No one is doing that. But what you are walking around with is the way that you engage with the world. How do you talk to people? How do you treat people? How do you talk and treat to yourself? How do you show up to your job? How are you dealing with stressful situations and when things get hard and you come up against resistance? And how are you doing things when you don't have time? Like all the way that you engage with the world, the actions that you take, the words that you speak, that is reflective of success and progress, right? Like, again, no one knows how much you weigh. No one knows what the size in your pants is. You know that in your head, but the way that you show up as a person is fully independent, can be fully independent of those quantitative, objective markers of success. And you have choice around all of that, right? You may not have choice around what size clothes fits you, or again, what the scale says, or when the ball goes into the basket. And if you lose the buzzer, you lose by 20 points or you win by 20 points. But you have a choice in how you show up throughout all of that, in the way you talk to yourself after the loss or after the win, and all the things you do that got you there. So that's really what I wanted to talk about today. I'm hoping that this resonates as I'm talking about it more. It's so helpful for me because this is lifelong work, right? This is not a box that gets checked. So anyway, thank you for listening. I'll be back next week. Of course, I took my week off and now we're in our regular schedule, and more soon.